You notice it quietly at first, not in some grand moment, not with trumpets or revelation, just a small, tired awareness that the world you once moved through so easily now feels foreign. You walk into a room full of people talking, laughing, scrolling, performing, and something in you stays at the threshold. You're there, but you're not in it. You sit among them the way a traveller sits in an airport, present, but already somewhere else. You watch the way conversations rise and fall like restless waves. You hear the sharp edges of small talk, the practiced opinions, the bright phone screens glowing where eyes used to meet. Everyone seems to be playing a part they've rehearsed for years, and for reasons you can't fully explain, you can't bring yourself to join in. Your smile feels borrowed. Your words feel unnecessary. You sense the performance, and it exhausts you long before anyone realizes you've gone quiet. It's not that you dislike people. It's not that you're angry at the world. It's something gentler and sadder, a kind of soft dislocation, as if the noise has grown louder while your tolerance for pretending has grown thin. You sit at a dinner table, hearing voices talk over each other, laughter running too fast, stories meant to impress rather than reveal, and you feel yourself drifting, not away from them, but toward yourself. There comes a moment when you catch your reflection in a window, the blur of lights behind you, the crowd moving like a single restless body, and you realize you're not rejecting anything. You're simply seeing it clearly for the first time. The game is still being played. You're just no longer convinced by the rules. This disconnection isn't a failure. It isn't a weakness. It's the quiet honesty that rises when your inner world grows deeper than the surface around you. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're just awake enough to feel the mismatch. And standing there, in the soft hum of a room that no longer feels like home, you notice something else. A breath you didn't know you were holding begins to loosen. Not sadness, not relief. Just the first clear moment of awareness, settling gently into place. There is a particular ache that comes when you begin to see clearly. Not the sharp pain of being wounded, but the slow, deep sorrow of realizing that the language you now speak is one most people no longer hear. You try, from habit, to meet them where they are. You soften your voice, you shorten your sentences, you place your truth in smaller bowls, hoping maybe this time it will be received. But it drifts past them like smoke. They nod, they smile, they change the subject, and you feel that familiar drop inside your chest, the recognition that you have spoken into a room where no one is really listening. It is a strange kind of grief, because nothing dramatic has happened. No argument, no betrayal, no grand unraveling, just the quiet mismatch between your seeing and their sleep. You say a simple sentence that carries your whole heart, and they hear only half a thought. You try to share what feels real, and it returns to you in fragments, misunderstood. So you retreat a little, then a little more. Not out of pride, not out of hurt, only because the effort begins to feel like shouting through a fogged mirror, your breath clouding your own reflection. There are evenings when you sit among the people you love, listening to the rhythm of their lives, and you feel the soft sting of distance. You know them. You care for them. Yet you sense the invisible curtain between your world and theirs. They speak of what should matter, what must be chased, what must be defended, and you listen, gently, knowing that you once lived inside that same script. We all did. But once your eyes adjust to a deeper light, you cannot make them dim again. There's a tenderness in this separation, a quiet mourning. You miss the ease of belonging, the comfort of being understood without effort. You miss the days when your thoughts fit neatly inside the world shared by others. Now your inner life feels wider than the rooms you enter, and no one sees the stretch in you but you. So you grow more silent, not withdrawn out of bitterness, but out of mercy, for yourself and for them. You stop trying to hand your clarity to people who are still dreaming. You hold it close instead, like a small lantern cupped against the wind. And in that stillness, another truth rises. The more awake you are, the fewer stay beside you. You begin to understand that seeing is not something you do. It is something that happens to you, quietly, steadily, like fog lifting from a field at dawn. One day the world feels thick and shapeless. The next, the shapes stand clear and undeniable. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has. You look at the same conversations, the same habits, the same rhythms of human movement, and the outlines sharpen in a way that leaves you both grounded and strangely apart. Clarity doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes like a shift in the light. A familiar room appears unfamiliar because you finally notice the corners, the shadows, the way silence stretches between words. You see the layers beneath behavior, the story behind the smile. And in that deeper seeing, something separates, almost automatically. Not a rejection, not an escape, just the natural distance created when illusion can no longer anchor you. It works like this. Illusion requires participation. It needs you to nod, to agree, to pretend. But awareness dissolves the mechanism. You stop feeding the story, and the story releases its grip. You notice the small manipulations in conversation. You see the subtle competition masked as friendship. You recognize the fear behind certainty. And as each illusion falls away, a quiet space opens inside you, a space where you no longer need to intervene, or correct, or convince. Solitude follows not as punishment, but as the simple geometry of truth. When the fog clears, you stand in a landscape others cannot yet see. You watch the reflections in people's faces the way one studies still water, calm, undisturbed, offering back exactly what is placed before it. And you understand why the noise of the world no longer holds you. Illusion is loud. Truth is almost silent. There's no bitterness in this, only a cool honesty, like bright sky after rain. You realize that the ache you carry is the cost of vision, and the vision itself is worth it. You cannot return to fog once you have seen the horizon, and so the mechanism is simple, almost austere. Seeing separates you from what refuses to be seen. Aphorism. Clarity changes nothing, and yet it changes you entirely. There comes a moment when the sorrow softens, not because anything outside has changed, but because something inside stops arguing with reality. You sit in the same quiet room, breathe the same slow breath, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel compelled to fix anything. Not yourself, not the world, not the distance between you and others. A kind of gentle stillness settles over you, like dust returning to the surface of a table after the room has emptied. You begin to understand that stillness is not apathy. It is not giving up. It is the point where the fight leaves your body, because it has finally realized there was no opponent. You're not retreating. You're returning. Returning to the center you abandoned while trying so hard to belong. There's a quiet humor in this discovery. You spent years performing, adjusting your voice, managing your face, offering explanations no one asked for. And now, in this open moment, you see how unnecessary it all was. Peace doesn't need applause. It barely needs words. It asks only for your presence, and even that softly. You sit by a window, noticing the way light rests on the surface of a glass of water. No effort, no strain, just presence. And you realize you can live like that too, without pushing, without proving. A life held together not by tension, but by ease. People may mistake your calm for indifference. They may think you've grown cold, or detached, or too quiet for their taste. But what has changed is not your capacity for love. It's your relationship with noise. Once, you ran toward it to feel alive. Now, you feel most alive in the spaces where everything pauses. Stillness is not the absence of care. It is care without conflict. It is attention without fear. It is the discipline of staying with yourself long enough to remember what peace actually feels like. And so you stop performing. You stop explaining. You stop bending your inner weather to match the storm of others. A soft pride grows in you, not arrogance, but the dignity of someone who finally trusts their own breath. You exhale, long and slow, not to release anything dramatic, but to mark the moment you return to yourself, whole, steady, and quietly at ease. You start to notice that silence has a texture, not emptiness, not absence, texture, like a forest path untouched by footsteps, or a television left on with the sound muted. Shapes still move, stories still unfold, but none of it hooks into you the way it once did. You observe quietly, as if from a few inches back inside your own mind. This is the strange gift of awakening. You see everything, but you no longer feel compelled to respond to everything. Your awareness becomes wide, like a bird gliding over a field, present, alert, but not entangled in the tangled things below. You watch the world's noise the way you'd watch leaves blowing in the wind, movement without meaning, drama without anchor. There is a kind of absurdity to it all. The arguments repeated word for word, the opinions flung like stones, the endless insistence that everyone must react, must choose a side, must rush into the fray. And yet you remain still, not from superiority, not from withdrawal, but from simple clarity. You see the pattern, and seeing dissolves the need to enter it. You begin to understand that silence is not passivity, it is precision. It is the refusal to waste your life force on battles that exist only in the mind. You say less, and in saying less, you see more. You intervene less, and in intervening less, you understand more. You discover that life resolves many things without you pressing your hands onto the wheel. Some days, you sit as if watching a silent film. People speak, but the deeper meaning floats beneath the words. You witness their fears, their longing, their attachment to noise, without judgment, without rushing in. The awakened mind acts through non-interference, seeing clearly, moving lightly, disturbing nothing unnecessary. There's spaciousness in this way of being, an uncluttered inner sky, a clarity that feels less like effort and more like permission to simply witness without absorbing. And slowly, without trying, you learn the quiet wisdom that lives beneath every moment of stillness. Silence is not escape. It is understanding without struggle. There comes a gentler turning when compassion returns. Not the old kind, heavy with responsibility, but something lighter, clearer, without the ache of expectation. We begin to feel for others the way we feel for a distant city glowing at night. Lives unfolding, windows lit, people moving room to room, unaware of who sees them. There is affection in that distance, warmth without possession, understanding without the need to intervene. We watch the people we once tried so hard to change, and a quiet truth settles in us. They are not wrong. They are simply dreaming. Dreaming the same way we once did. Dreaming of approval, of certainty, of a life that finally makes sense if only they try hard enough. And because we remember that dream so intimately, we no longer meet it with irritation. We meet it with recognition. We soften. Not out of pity, and not out of duty, but out of a simple awareness that everyone wakes on their own schedule. We see the confusion behind their sharp words, the fear behind their certainty, the longing beneath their noise. We see the candle of their consciousness flickering behind the glass of habit, and we no longer tap the window demanding they hurry. We simply watch, gently, steadily, present, but not pressing. There is a tenderness in no longer trying to fix anyone, a spacious kindness that says, I see you exactly where you are, and I trust your path, even when you don't. We stop handing out advice disguised as love. We stop dragging people toward clarity they are not ready to hold. We stop confusing our pace with theirs. Instead, we offer what we can, a calm presence, a listening ear, a soft word when it's invited. And even when none of that is possible, we offer something smaller, but just as real, non-interference, the freedom for others to be exactly as they are, without our shadows pressing in. This is compassion without attachment, caring without clinging, seeing without steering, loving without losing ourselves. And in that quiet balance, something subtle stirs between us. Not closeness, not distance, but a gentle thread of connection, steady and unforced, a reminder that even in solitude, we are never truly separate. You return quietly, almost without noticing. Not to the old world, not to its noise or its hunger, but to a deeper version of yourself, one that no longer needs to chase meaning in every direction. The awakening that once felt sharp has softened into something round, something warm, something that rests rather than reaches. You open a window at dawn and feel the cool air move across your face, and there is no inner commentary, no searching for signs, just breath, just being, just the simple truth of this moment. The solitude that once stung now feels like a shoreline, steady, spacious, patient. You sit on the edge of your own awareness, the way one sits beside a quiet sea, watching the small waves rise and fall without the urge to enter or escape. Everything moves, and you move with it. Everything calms, and you calm too. There is no resistance left in you, no tightening, no need to prove you've changed. You know you have, and that knowing is enough. You start to notice how easily life flows when you stop pushing against its tide. Conversations unfold without performance. Relationships settle into their natural shapes. Decisions make themselves in the open space where fear used to live. Your silence is no longer a shield. It's simply the place you speak from now, clear, light, unforced. We return, all of us, in our own time, not to who we were, but to who we are when the striving ends, to the self beneath the masks, to the breath beneath the words, to the quiet that has waited patiently under every noise we once mistook for living. Awakening is not an achievement. It is the gentle exhale after the long effort of pretending. It is the moment the world stops feeling like something to survive and begins to feel like something to witness, softly, honestly, without defense. You stand at the open window, morning light on your hands, and realize you have returned, not higher, not wiser, simply here, and here is enough.